Big questions is what Donald Trump was up to in the White House as this riot was unfolding. Liz Cheney has suggested, including in an interview on This Week, that anybody who spoke to Donald Trump during those hours should come and testify before the committee. She suggested it could even mean subpoenas, a subpoena for Kevin McCarthy. And now we've learned Jim Jordan also talked to Donald Trump on January 6th. Would you support subpoenas to the Republican leader in the House and to Jim Jordan?
I would support subpoenas to anybody that can shed light on that. If that's the leader, that's the leader. If it's anybody that talked to the president that can provide us that information, I want to know what the president was doing every moment of that day after he said, I'm going to walk with you to the Capitol. After Mo Brooks stood up and said, we're going to kick backside and take names. Today's the day that, patriots take their country back from other people. I want to know what they were doing because that's going to be important. I want to know, if the National Guard took 5 or 6 hours to get to Capitol Hill, did the president make any calls? And if he didn't, why? And if he did, of course, then how come the National Guard still takes 5 hours? I think had the president picked up the phone and made a call, the Guard would have been there immediately. This is stuff that we can't, sweep under the rug of that was a whole 7 months ago, history that some people are trying to do because it's politically inconvenient. If anybody's scared of this investigation, I ask you one question, what are you afraid of? I mean, either you're afraid of being discovered, of having some culpability in it, or, what? If you think it wasn't a big deal, then you should allow this to go forward. So it is essential for history, for the American people, for truth, that we get to the bottom of this. I think anybody with parts of that information, with inside knowledge, can probably expect to be talking to the committee.
Before this, you kicked off this first hearing, the Republican leadership held a press conference where they placed blame for the riot on Nancy Pelosi. I want to play you a sound from the conference chair, Elise Stefanik.
The American people deserve to know the truth, that Nancy Pelosi bears responsibility as Speaker of the House for the tragedy that occurred on January 6th.
I mean, my God, they've protected Donald Trump from blame here, and they're blaming Nancy Pelosi for the fact that Trump supporters invaded the Capitol and including her office. Can you explain to me what they're talking about?
Yeah, to me it's mind-blowing, and it basically shows the desperation to try to derail this. Now, if you think about the different audiences that exist, there's the audience of the American people, and then there's the audience of Donald Trump. All Donald Trump needs to see is that you're making a defense no matter how nonsensical that defense is. So if that defense goes from, of course we all know it was Trump supporters and it was QAnon types that launched to this insurrection on the 6th. But if you stand in front of the proper news channel that Donald Trump watches and you say, this is Nancy Pelosi's fault, you've just done your job. It doesn't matter if it doesn't even make any sense anymore. What matters is that you've said something to placate him. And so, look, I mean, the Speaker and I don't get along on a lot of things. On this case, we do, which is we need answers. It's been 7 months. It's time to get to the bottom of this. And by the way, blaming what happened on January 6th on the security posture, and certainly we're going to get to the bottom of the security posture, but that's like blaming somebody for being the victim of a crime when the perpetrator actually executed that crime. It's insane. And this is where we have to take back the narrative, particularly speaking as a fellow conservative to conservatives. It's like, we can't do this alone. That's why I started Country First, country1st.com, to just say, let's take back, let's mend division in this country and actually get back to telling the truth to people instead of being able to stand up and say, it's Nancy Pelosi's fault and know that Donald Trump's happy and the truth doesn't matter.
If you were wondering why Kevin McCarthy was pushing so hard to delegitimize this House Select Committee on January 6th, it's because now he himself is a subject of that investigation. Because when it comes to January 6th for Republicans, it's less about the truth and more about covering your own ass. Here's what's especially ironic about this. Now, if even the Republican members of this committee are willing to call Kevin McCarthy to testify, it's most likely going to happen. And it's only because McCarthy had initially decided to play politics and balk at the opportunity to do a bipartisan bipartisan commission, where he would have been able to choose an equal number of members, and any subpoenas would have been subject to bipartisan agreement. And that was a commission, by the way, wherein Democrats accepted the conditions set forth by Republicans. But because that negotiation was clearly done in bad faith, and because McCarthy decided to oppose it anyway, and because he then went a step further and tried to make a mockery of the House Select Committee by putting people like Jim Jordan and Jim Banks on it, well, now he's stuck with all of Pelosi's choices, including Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, who will now likely ensure that Kevin McCarthy himself testifies for the same committee that he tried to undermine. Not that this is poetic justice, but yeah, no, that's exactly what this is. But Kinzinger's question is important here. Why not have the investigation? If you don't think anyone did anything wrong, then you have nothing to lose by letting the investigation move forward. This committee is composed of serious lawmakers from both parties, and in fact is the polar opposite of the partisan circus that Republicans like McCarthy tried to turn it into. And on the flip side, the other reason that you definitely don't want this investigation to move forward is because you're afraid of people finding out your culpability. So the fact that GOP leadership is so opposed to a committee that would otherwise put this issue to rest if they truly had no culpability really does speak volumes. But likely the most crucial part of this entire interview is Adam Kinzinger acknowledging that his own party's defenses of Trump and his acolytes on January 6th are only meant to placate one person, Donald Trump himself. Those defenses don't even have to make sense, which was put on full display by the right's desperation to somehow paint Nancy Pelosi as responsible for the Trump-incited mob that was seeking to assassinate her. But the whole point is to just say something, anything, since the right traffics in conspiracy theories, and right-wing media is happy to pick up on any inane, mind-numbing suggestion and run wild with it. Remember, this is an ecosystem that has convinced half of its audience not to get a free, life-saving vaccine during a pandemic where 99.9% of the people dying are the ones who didn't get the vaccine. But sure, they definitely have facts and reality on their side. Got it. And I should note too, there is a very specific reason that Republicans are pushing back against Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. It's because their presence as Republicans undermines the argument on the right that this is some sham partisan witch hunt. Republicans are hellbent on trying to convince their side that Kinzinger and Cheney are rhinos, Republicans in name only, because so long as they continue to do interviews like the one we just watched, it deprives the rest of the GOP of their most potent attacks. So look, you may not agree with them on most issues, I certainly don't, but it goes without saying that their presence on this committee and their willingness to speak out publicly is important. And having two high-profile members of the GOP legitimizes this investigation in a way that no other Democrat could. Not because I don't think that a Democrat-only committee wouldn't easily be able to get to the bottom of this, because of course they would, but half the battle here is that we're fighting a messaging war against a right-wing ecosystem that exists not to expose facts, but to spread propaganda. So having someone from that side debunking their own disinformation is not only welcome, but absolutely necessary. If you enjoyed that video and you're looking for a deeper dive, check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. It's a no BS look at the top stories of the week, along with interviews with the top names in politics, like Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Katie Porter, Pete Buttigieg, and more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Also, if you want to see more videos like this one, click the subscribe link right here on this screen to join the more than 1 million people who've already subscribed to my channel. And finally, to donate to my Don't Be a Mitch Fund, where I'm raising money for a whole raft of different voter outreach and voter registration groups in the closest states ahead of midterms in 2022, including Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Texas. You can find that link on this screen as well. Thanks for watching.